righty, we are now moving on to our third presentation by the CEO's Office for the Water Billing Delinquent Accounts and Payments Update. So please, CEO Cochnran-Johnson, we welcome you to the podium.
Good morning. We have brought along slides, so we'll show them on the monitor, and we're also giving each of you a copy, and you will also find them in your inbox. This morning, we wanted to come before you for a variety of reasons, but most importantly, to ensure that we're all on the same page and make everyone aware of the actions that have been taken as a result of the resolution that is associated with water billing, so that there is the comfort of knowing we are headed in the right direction, and also to get any feedback. I would ask that you allow the full presentation before we begin questions. One of the reasons we're here is because it has been stated that there are mass disconnections taking place across DeKalb County of water. I'm here to assure you that that is not the case. What we have given you here today is the disconnections to date, year to date, from last year to this year. And you will see that last year, by April, there were 233 disconnections. And currently, to date, here in DeKalb County in 2025, we have had 89 disconnections of water service. The next thing that you will see is a water billing delinquency data sheet, and this was actually generated a week ago. So when it comes to talking about water delinquencies, it is a matter of point in time, because last week when I held a press conference concerning our water billing, at that time we had a total of 89 disputes. And I want to point out also that over the course of the past 8 years, at one point we had well over 30,000 different disputes. We're down last week to 89, and this week I'm happy to say that we are at 82. People are coming forward to have the conversations that are necessary to either establish payment, to receive sensitivity, water billing, or to reach a resolution. So what you have here shows where we are. And currently in DeKalb County, in terms of residential owners, we have $45,086,390.70 outstanding. In terms of tenant residential, we have $22,150,010.29. In terms of condominiums, we have $25,489,316 and a penny. And in terms of apartment communities currently owed to DeKalb County, we have $11,993,359.56. All combined, due to our utility company at this time from ratepayers, is a total of $104,719,076.56. So let's talk about what we are doing, because I want to be clear that currently it is not sustainable, nor is it wise for us to continue on a monthly basis allowing hundreds of thousands of dollars to accrue in terms of unpaid water. So I understand our history and where we've been, but we have replaced more than 104,000 water meters in DeKalb, and I'm very excited to say that we now have smart technology and we've turned the corner. We now have the ability to properly bill our ratepayers. So what we're not doing is mass disconnections, and we are not disconnecting people for non-payment of bills that are currently in dispute. And I want to be very clear that as I move into this position as the CEO, that what we've found over the past several weeks is a great deal of ambiguity. We have individuals that have indicated upon consultation that when they filed a dispute, they did not believe they were liable for any future water bills. So in DeKalb County, we have some individuals that date back to 2010 who have not paid a water bill. Last week, we had a consultation with a gentleman And during the course of 5 years, he had paid 12 water bills. He said he was under the impression that at the time he filed a dispute, he was no longer responsible for water payments. I want to be clear that an individual, if your water rate comes in, and honestly, it's very easy to look at an account and tell whether or not there's a huge spike in water usage. That would be an irregular account, and there can be a variety of reasons that it would occur. But you are responsible for continuing to pay any undisputed amounts that you're billed each month. So it's very important that we have these conversations so we can set expectations and we can make sure that everyone is on the same sheet of music. Now, what we are doing, we are focusing on collections of water accounts that are $3,000 balances or higher, in which there's been no contact in 30 days. What we don't want to see is the continued accrual of debt. And I want to be very clear, too, that DeKalb County has played a role in this, because for many years, we've allowed individuals to continue receiving service. And during some consultations, we've had individuals simply say, it just got out of control. And they will acknowledge that we just plain and simply have not paid. So we don't want that history to continue as we move forward. Current collection notices are processed manually. New automated outbound dialer system that now reminds customers of their overdue balances is in place. Customers are encouraged to call and set up payment plans to avoid disconnection. Customers with months or years of no contact are now receiving phone calls, emails, and mail notices to prompt communication. And I will allow Lynn, I think you're here, to go ahead and come forward, because I want you to hear from the individuals that are on the front line, who are performing these services on a daily basis, so that you understand fully the actions that they're currently taking. Also, after 30 days of no response, a 10-day disconnection notice is mailed. So if you've received a notice, it has been the result of no contact and an inability to reach the client. And I want to also say that we found in certain instances that, people have moved on, maybe new tenants in the home. There was no contact made with DeKalb County. So there are a variety of issues that take place as it relates to no communication and not understanding whether or not the previous ratepayer is in place. And last but not least, if no reply, service is disconnected due to non-payment or water waste. And at this time, I'll let you come forward, and I'm just going to roll on up, and you can talk about the process that we have here.
All right, thank you. Good morning. Okay. Now, you don't have to help me with this. I ain't doing all this. Yeah. So here I am again. So in terms of the process, I think Madam CEO has done a very good job of explaining where we are, what we're doing. So the only thing that I can really add to that is on a daily basis, we're making calls, we're doing outreach, and we've done that repeatedly. I mean, we've had several cycles of that. So one of the things that I thought might be helpful was to kind of we've done letter campaigns. We've, again, since the new system was put in place, we have an automatic dialer. We have our collection staff, they're on the phones, and it's not so much trying to prevent people from being disconnected, because that's not the first thing we're trying to do. We're trying to bring people back into the fold, because there are literally people who have not contacted us. And quite frankly, we have some that contact you all before they even call us. It's like we don't even know that they're out there, and then we get an email and we're like, they've never contacted us. But in any event, over the course from 2021, when the moratorium was lifted, where we were able to actually resume cutting, we still had not. We've sent a total of about 5 mass communications with printing and postage for about $135,000. And so everybody has been touched. We've done, the door hangers. So we're making every effort every day to reach out to the customers, and all we're asking is for them to reach out to come into a payment plan, or in many instances, they've experienced leaks, and many of them are eligible for leak adjustments under the current administrative policy. But what we can't do is do something to the account, and we don't know what's going on. And to the numbers that you were seeing in terms of the disconnects, those numbers mainly were for customers, which we call them UNCs, but it basically means is there's usage on the account, but no customer has been associated with it. So in other words, probably someone has moved out, the water was still on, because of course we weren't disconnecting, maybe that person didn't final their bill, so someone else is in there using the water. We even do door hangers for that before we even turn them off. So there are layers upon layers upon layers of ways that we're trying to communicate. But at the end of the day, it's an effort and futility if we don't do something different. And then that's when we have to actually turn the water off. And surprisingly enough, well, not to us as the utility, they will come in and respond to that. Again, we've replaced over 104,000 meters. We've upgraded the billing system. We have smart technology. We can tell on an hour-by-hour basis. And we're at the point where we just really need to get to work. We just really need to get to work, and we need everyone's cooperation. We need the board's cooperation when you get customers to let them know the things that are available and the things that we do. Because I think, if I'm being frank, sometimes the staff, they will share with me that it sometimes feel like we're not on the same team. It seems like, we're out here doing these things, and are we really being supported? I don't know. I don't personally feel that way. I understand there are layers upon layers of things that occur. Everybody is, I think, working the way they think it best to resolve the issue. But at the end of the day, I personally have been here 29 years, and I've worked very closely historically with the board staff. And matter of fact, the first inaugural customer appreciation, it was Commissioner Rader who recommended me for customer service person of the year. So we have always had a great relationship with the board and the board staff. And so as in my position today, I would just ask that when customers are reaching out to you, let's first just adopt a tone of neutrality and let it play out. Refer them to us, because I'm telling you, a lot of times there's their side, our side, and in the middle is what's really going on, because a lot of it is due to the lack of communication. So I don't really have anything else to add unless there are.
Okay.
We good?
Yes. And thank you so much. I want to say to the water billing team that over the past several weeks, they've done a great job of ensuring that I have information. They've also ensured that we have great processes. So I want to also state, because it has often been said that our water collection activity is the result of CIP, and it is not. Our water collection activity is because DeKalb County is a provider of essential services. We are a utility service provider, and it is both standard as well as necessary as a function of a water utility provider to simply collect the rates that are associated with the delivery of the service for which an individual receives. I want to also debunk myths, because we are not in violation of any law. DeKalb County passed a resolution alongside the approval of the 10 by 10, and I think that the Board of Commissioners was wise in determining to do so, because we wanted to give every resident of DeKalb County the assurance that as we are moving forward with a rate increase, that we are being sensitive to any individual, no matter how small, depending on an income that is within a household, that we are giving consideration and care for them. So with the resolution, it does require the implementation of a variety of measures by January 1st, 2026, as stated within the resolution. And we are actively moving to ensure that well before that time, I would believe that possibly over the course of the next 30 days, all elements that are associated with the customer will be in place. I would like to say that a water advocate has been identified, and income sensitivity rate parameters are in formation, and I will actually share those with you today. At this time, I would ask if the Urban League of Greater Atlanta is present, their representatives. I would like to acknowledge at this time Nancy Flake Johnson, who serves as the CEO of the Urban League of Greater Atlanta, and also John Moy, who is the Legislative and Policy Director. They have been identified as our customer advocates. And most people in this room would probably be familiar with the Urban League of Greater Atlanta and their advocacy. So in terms of working with our ratepayers who indicate that they are in need of sensitivity water billing, they will be the agency to do so. They have worked with us during the administration and the dissemination of funds that were associated with the CIP as well as the consent decree. Let me go back. Let me be corrective there. That are associated with our ARPA and CARES Act funds. So they have a strong record with DeKalb. And of course, their motto, empowering families, changing lives. And just to read a statement, the Urban League of Greater Atlanta's mission is to ensure equal opportunity and economic justice for rural and urban communities throughout the state. We advocate through exceptional programs delivered in partnership with community, business, public, private sector leaders, and individual contributors. So very excited to announce that we have selected a consumer advocate who will work with ratepayers in DeKalb. Now, in addition to them serving as a consumer advocate, they will be charged with the final structure of the rate sensitivity program. Now, what I am suggesting, however, they will have final authority, and we will bring it back, is that individuals who receive SNAP as well as Medicaid are automatically qualified to participate in rate sensitivity. Also, for individuals who do not receive either SNAP or Medicaid, the HUD guidelines is what I'm recommending should be used for establishing the sensitivity income. And basically, it is used as a national model, and it states that if you have income sensitivity, and it looks at the area median household income, currently, that's like $80,000, so in DeKalb County, it would be $41,000 for qualification, but you would pay no more than 3% of your income for water service, and if it is a water and sewer combined, no more than 5%. So, let's talk about corrective issues and creating accountability, because that's what we seek to do. Not punish and not move forward with ambiguity, but create accountability for all ratepayers. What we are asking, we will demonstrate as we move forward, both caring as well as efficiency. We want to make sure that our ratepayers are responsible. We also want to make sure, to the extent that we can, we provide sensitivity rates for individuals who do not have the ability or demonstrate that there is a need due to sensitive income. We will also require all consultations to take place on a recorded line. Because one of the things that we have found, as we have had discussions and we've sat there and the discussion was very civil, the individual will say that they have been bullied or forced into an agreement. Moving forward, we will have a video recording of all consultations that take place, because we are not here to bully or intimidate. We're simply here to correct the ills of history so that we do not continue moving forward tens of thousands of dollars on a monthly basis of unpaid water rates. Also, we will require online Zoom consultations to be recorded. So when you're receiving a consultation, you will see the little button pop up indicating that the conversation is being recorded. So if there's ever any concern that is expressed by a ratepayer or even a board of commissioner, then we can automatically send over that vignette to you. And I'd also like to indicate that we have welcomed independent advocates to be on calls with consumers. We have had representatives from the NAACP that have sat in on consultations, because we are not here, again, to be punitive. We're simply seeking to move forward in a constructive way. Also, payment plans will be customized based upon need. And I do want to point out, as it relates to the resolution and the provisions within it, it was an affirmation, 95% of what is already being done. When we say establishing rate plans that go out 7 years, it was already being done. When we indicate sensitivity to income, they were already being given sensitivity payments based upon only the statement that they had a sensitive income. But moving forward, we will require, because I do believe that it is good business practice, if an individual indicates that they have a sensitive income, you will be required to show either a W-2 or a tax return, is what is being proposed, as well as we are seeking the advice from the Urban League as to how to determine, because they are experts in determining what is affordable and affordability. So I'm excited to have them, because we may come back with other determinations as we move forward. Also, I'd like to state that rate sensitivity will, we've already said that it will be verified by our consumer advocate group, by the Urban League. All payment plans will require a signed agreement. And for the convenience of ratepayers, we are implementing DocuSign. And with that, it creates comfort for the ratepayer, and it also gives us the security of understanding. Knowing contract law, there are 3 ways to form a contract: written, verbal, and manifestations of assent. When you receive water, you are receiving a service, so you understand that there is a fee that is associated with it. So to ensure that there's no ambiguity and to protect the consumer as well as DeKalb County, we will require that you sign all agreements. Because what we have also encountered since I've taken office is individuals who agreed to an initial plan, and there was ambiguity. There was not, as we say in law, a meeting of the minds, obviously, that they had agreed to pay $64 in some instances in addition to their standard water rate. So we will require all agreements to be in writing, and we will require consumers to honor agreements and work hard to master service delivery here in DeKalb County so that there's no ambiguity moving forward. So how do we move forward? I'd like to say that, of course, to Miss Lynn as well as Felicia and Marlene, you guys have been great. As we move forward, I would ask that when you receive an inquiry, because as Lynn said, in many instances, individuals that we have attempted to contact for substantial amounts of time, and I think there may be a certain fear, because as I've said, as we have interviewed some folk and sat with them to come up with resolution on their accounts, they flat out said, this got away from me. And I believe there may be fear by some of simply coming forward. But again, we have to start somewhere, because as we've expressed, we have found that in some instances, we've allowed water to continue. There's new tenants in the home because there's been absolutely no contact between DeKalb County and the individual located at that residence for months and sometimes years. So please, I would ask that you direct all calls to the customer service or the customer assurance department, and you have them there, as well as the emails. And feel free, we don't mind if you want to be a part of the conversation as it moves forward so that you will know the outcome. And last but not least, thank you all for the consideration. We look forward to complete implementation, and I'm very proud to say that we're just about done in terms of our portion, and we will come back to you expeditiously with the final agreement between the Urban League and DeKalb County for review that clearly indicates that we've met the terms and conditions of the resolution that's been presented. And at this time, I would open ourselves to any questions.
Thank you, Madam CEO, for that informative presentation. We definitely have some commissioners who have questions or comments. So we'll start with Commissioner Patrick, then Commissioner Davis-Johnson, and then Commissioner Messiah.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. Thank you for what you've presented. I think there was a lot of expectations, a lot of good work from my colleagues on these water affordability concerns, particularly with the rate increase. You got the Urban League, my God, like that is fantastic. In my books, that is absolutely fantastic. So a question, and it goes back to I think slide 2 or 3, where you had all of the outstanding balances by user type. Are we above or beyond national averages for other water districts when it comes to arrears not collected?
We are far above.
We are far above.
We are far above. Honestly, we're 2 to 3 times more in terms of delinquent accounts than what is normal in the metro region. We are above.
Okay. For now, those are my questions. But again, thank you very much. Bringing the Urban League to the table, I think, is phenomenal. And then having a staff person come here with their contact numbers up here, I'll be able to use that much more effectively with my residents and businesses. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam
And
Presiding
also
Officer.
let me say that yesterday I sent you all a toolkit. But I want to be clear that the water billing professionals, they are very professional. They are very caring. And I don't want any commissioner to, unless they, honestly have the time to follow up, feel free to send along the documents, because all of the documents, you will see that we have even created a document that has a QR code that takes you directly to the dispute page. Because what I'm seeing is, in some instances, posts that say, dispute your water bills. And I want to be clear, you are disputing generally a bill, not every bill that you've ever received. So when you reach out, you are required to indicate what billing period or the actual number that's associated with the bill that you're disputing. So we are trying to create a system that is easy for people to use. So if you look at the information that we sent over yesterday, you'll see, let me find my sheet and just hold it up so that you're on the same sheet of music. You'll see the letter that goes out to the customer that indicates a review of your water bill and sewer activity indicates you have a past due balance. We have made multiple attempts to contact you, and it is imperative that you address this matter immediately. We have a team of customer service representatives available to assist you with resolving your water bill. If you have previously disputed a water bill, we are dedicated to resolving all disputes during the next 90 days. And I do want to say that over the next 90 days, we are going to double down and give it a 100% in reaching everyone who is currently in a delinquent status. If you are actively disputing a water bill, it does not end your responsibility to pay bills that are correctly invoiced. Shut-off protections are available during disputed charges as long as non-disputed charges are paid when due. And I have found that to be the biggest issue. Individuals have expressed, I'm in dispute. I do not have to pay my water bill. And that is not correct. You must pay water bills that are accurately assessed. So it goes on to say, if you're experiencing a financial hardship, extenuating and mitigating circumstances, or wish to discuss your bill in detail, we urge you to contact our customer service team Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So their work hours far exceed a general work day. So we attempt to make this easy for people to reach out, and we're happy to discuss available options to assist you in bringing your account current. And we say thank you for the immediate response. Now, on this particular sheet, is where there is a QR code. So if you scan it, it takes you right over to the dispute page. So if you want to dispute, we need to hear from you too. If you're saying you're not paying because you've been incorrectly invoiced, please go to the water billing dispute page, enter which bill you are disputing, and we will immediately follow up. And I do want to say that, over the years, we've not given this, in my opinion, the diligence that it needed. And it has gotten out of control. All we're attempting to do is create order and ensure that we're collecting monies that are due when services are rendered. And if there are conditions that require consideration, make us aware and we're willing to do so. But I am very happy to move along this process to the Urban League because they are highly qualified. They've worked with rate sensitivity. And Nancy Flake Johnson and her team, as well as Mr. John Moy, have an excellent reputation, not only across the state of Georgia and the region, but also on a national level for the work that they have done.
Thank you very much, Madam CEO. I believe Commissioner Patrick has a follow-up.
One follow-up. So when I've helped residents and businesses with water disputes, I don't always get the full picture. I hear the resident complaint, and I hear a little bit of the county side. Is there a way that you can set up a process, maybe a debriefing for individual commissioners where we can understand, the bill was hundreds of thousands, and we work through X, Y, or Z program available, and we were able to reduce it by whatever the percentage is, and so that we have an understanding when we go back and talk to that resident, we're just more knowledgeable.
Absolutely. And I would say, too, the best thing that I've done was actually sit and listen and be a part of the process. And any commissioner that desires to do so, if there is a particular consumer that's reached out, you can sit in on those calls. As I've said, we've had representatives from the NAACP because I feel that because of history and where we've come from, there's almost an inherent belief that a ratepayer may not be treated fairly and equitably. But that is not the intent here, not at all.
Thank you very much. Before Commissioner Davis Johnson starts with her comments, I have looked through my email and I don't see the toolkit. Would you just double check and make sure that's been sent?
It was actually sent yesterday.
Okay.
If you'll pass me my computer, I'll send it right now.
Just resend it to be on the safe side. Thank you. All right, Commissioner Davis Johnson.
Got it.
Thank you, Madam CEO. And I think it was very good for you to come before us this morning to give us a ABC breakdown of what is happening versus what is the perception that is happening. One of the things that I try to do in my office when I get a complaint, I immediately send it to the water department to find out what is happening on their side. So I can look at what the complaint is, look at what has been done on the water side, and see what can be done. And a lot of times it's resolved just by doing that, because as you stated earlier, there are, and the attorneys understand, and I'm sure that the commissioners do too, that many times there's three sides to a story. And I always say one from the client, one from the opposing client, and then one that's presented in court. And so, of course, I try to get all of the facts because that's crucial. I'm really excited about the Urban League. I mean, they're one of the best advocates one could have. And of course, if I could get y'all to advocate for me for Georgia Power, we'll be doing good. But I think that going forth, I have a better understanding as where we're going. Because when I came here in 2015, the room was full of complaints about water problems. Since that time, I think meters has been changed, courses has been redirected, and the problem is getting to a resolution. And so we all know that we can't get free water. And we all want clean and quality water. And therefore, we have to pay our bills. So that along with the 10 by 10, which I think is going to be great in assisting our customers, we have to be responsible too. Because as they say, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And so if you've tried and you've tried and you try to contact our citizens and they do not reply, what other choices do we have if we want to make sure that water is accessible and available and clean for all our citizens? So I applaud you and your efforts. I am here to assist in whatever way that I can assist for this transition because, and I'm sure there's ambiguity. I'm sure that some people, whether they believe it or want to believe it, is if I make a dispute, it stops my water. But that's not true, and I think that you brought that out so well. So thank you for your efforts, and look forward to moving forward on this project.
Thank you, and let me say wholeheartedly, DeKalb County is not blameless. To be honest, we have gotten here but for our history. And it becomes difficult because water is essential for life.
It is.
And during the years of turbulence, when I was at that time a ratepayer and watching in my home the crowded rooms in town halls, I understand where we have come from. Now, I personally can't say that I've ever been affected by what some have experienced, but I do want to give the reality to what many did experience. Many received inaccurate bills. And as a result, I believe that in an attempt to move forward, we simply did not disconnect. And with that being said, one of the things that really struck me when I sat with the team yesterday was them saying, either we trust our technology and we require people to be honorable and meet their obligation, or we don't. And to be honest, I want to be very clear. I work at the will of the Board of the Commissioners. Okay? So if there is a deviation that's desired, then by all means say it. Otherwise, we're going to ensure that the resolution is met 100%.
Great, thank you so much. Commissioner Messiah?
I want to start by saying I appreciate the acknowledgement in terms of contributing to the challenge that we've had, the problem that we have. I think that's very important to acknowledge that. I also appreciate that we have put procedures in place for inaccurate billing. I'd like to know what procedures we're going to put in place in the future to prevent excessive bills going forward. I mean, I know you mentioned smart technology, and I'm presuming that's sort of going towards the inaccurate billing, but the reality of it is certain residents aren't going to be able to afford, when you get to $5,000 and $6,000 bills, just like some, businesses won't be able to afford when you get to 20, 30, 40,000. There is a differentiation between, usage and, want to just understand how do we prevent ourselves from getting in this place where things get excessive in the future and have to take, these measures to resolve it.
Understood. And let me say that each and every individual who presents themselves Everyone has different circumstances, so we work with each individual on an independent basis. I do believe the initial letter that went out requested 10% of the delinquency along with a payment plan. Realizing some people are not in a position to pay 10%, then the customer service representatives, they are given full authority to negotiate and come to what is comfortable. But once you reach what's comfortable, then we expect you to be honorable as to what you are doing moving forward. Now, we can't go back, and there will always be some irregular bills because from time to time there are leaks. There is an acknowledgement that there are some communities in DeKalb County that have ongoing water leaks and issues, and those tend to be problematic because these are multifamily units and apartment communities. And also I want to say, because you inherit history, historically, we have had many what I call communal meters, but COO, what is the word you use for the master meters? That's it. And with the master meters, entire community may be on one meter, so there's no way to assess individuals. And again, because we have experienced the water issues that we have, there are communities who may have collected from residents and who have failed to forward those monies to DeKalb County. In some instances, they've paid portions, they've not paid others. And it is problematic because DeKalb County does not have the authority. And also, I want to be clear, we don't have the revenue, so we have often done a cost-benefit analysis to determine whether it's more advantageous for us to go and repair water pipes on private property while landlords are collecting revenue. And I want you to hear me well. These are things that we've done. We have repaired water leaks on certain properties because of the amount of the water leak, and it was in our best interest to do so. But we have to weigh those on a case-by-case basis, depending on the amount that may be associated with the water repair itself, because that is at a cost to DeKalb County and the residents that are sitting here today in this room. So those are determinations that we've made traditionally on a case-by-case basis. So again, you know, some homes may have water leaks. Present yourselves. Of course, many of you are familiar with DeKalb Cares. And it would be the intent as we begin to see and collect revenue that we're able to come forward and individuals who may be in need of a repair, that money, with the permission of the Board of Commissioners, could be utilized to help remediate negative conditions. So this remains a work in progress, but we have sound ideas as to how to move forward. But continuing as we are, the way we are, honestly is not a good business practice, nor is it sustainable, because we have continued to allow the accrual of debt.
And I completely agree in terms of, Bill, we have responsibilities to pay our bills and how it could put a hardship on the county to carry those. But with the point in terms of hardships, just, you know, and I appreciate that we're getting in a consumer advocate. I know that's something that we wanted for this board. There was a piece in it where we assessed the financial, you know, sensitivities and also hardships. So is there a consideration in terms of folks that are going through particular hardships? There are emergency situations, accidents, you know, just things happen. So is that something that's being built in as well? And then lastly, just to get a sense of the timeliness of being able to ascertain an appointment.
All of the above. Any sensitivity that needs to be considered, we simply need to know, and so will the water advocate, and we will adjust you accordingly. And, you know, that's why it's really important for us to stand here today and for ratepayers to hear this, because we are here to work with you. We're not here to be adversarial. We're here to help.
Great. And then lastly, I just want to give a shout out to COO and Lynn. I appreciate seeing you here. We're not perfect. We have mistakes that we make, and we try to fix those mistakes. With that, there was a challenge with an older woman. She was 80 years old, long-serving member of the church, and her water had been cut off. And on Mother's Day, weekend on that Saturday, and I know that COO and Lynn jumped in immediately to rectify that issue. So, we're not going to be absence of challenges and mistakes. And I can see an effort to, immediately rectify when we do make those mistakes. And I like seeing, what we're putting in place to prevent them in the future and prevent some of the contentious, things that we're having to deal with now. So I appreciate it. You're back to you, Madam PO. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Davis-Johnson has requested a brief follow-up, and then we'll move to Commissioner Terry.
When you state that sometimes we have to make a decision to go on private property, and I'm assuming complexes that have collected monies from tenants and have not paid us, do we get that money back from the owners?
That is an excellent question. What we do is place liens. And I want to be clear that when liens are placed, we have liens, and I have spoken with our law department because I would like to know, even when we do demolitions, we place liens against properties. And oftentimes, until that property is transferred, we just have a lien. So it is the immediate reduction of DeKalb County's revenue when we decide and determine that it's absolutely necessary to make that repair.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Terry.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. Thank you for the information, Madam CEO. Could you put back up the slide, I think it was the third slide, the water billing delinquency data with all of the accounts on it? And maybe, I don't know, Diane might be able to answer this question as well, but it says that there's 111,000 identified accounts. I thought we had about 200-something thousand total accounts.
You are absolutely correct.
So does this indicate that half of all DeKalb County watershed customers have a billing delinquency?
That's exactly what it indicates.
Okay, so if I were to go to any room, grocery store, library, community center, church in DeKalb County, 1 out of every 2 people in that room potentially have either a past due bill or, I guess, also a dispute.
Right. No, disputes, currently we're at 82.
Okay,
Last week we were at 89. Delinquencies are completely different from a dispute.
Okay, and what percentage of these 111,000 accounts are on a payment plan?
That I am not able to answer. Standing, is Director McNabb present? Or I think also Mr. Harold runs our numbers when we request them.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
What percentage of the 111,000 accounts that are delinquent are in a payment plan?
We don't have that information as far as how many are in a payment plan.
Okay, well, okay, so I guess
mean,
the main question is, how many of these 111,000 accounts are in shut-off territory? How many are you going after, how many are you planning to shut off based on non-payment or delinquency?
I don't think we have an actual plan as to how many. We send out the 3,000 letters. And to
The
the extent,
3,000 letters went to whom?
to the people that we haven't heard from in over 12 months and that have over $3,000
Is that the aging, that's the
outstanding.
aging report that you sent us?
Regarding the aging report? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that should come from the aging report.
Okay, so that's basically who's sort of in line for being shut off, because there's been no payment.
And no contact
in at
from
least
them.
12 months, and they're over $3,000, or is it just? up to $3,000.
And I can tell you that we have $28 million that is set up in installment plans. Can't
28
tell you
million. Okay,
how
20.
many, how many of them there are, but there are 28 million that are set up in installment plans. Our experience so far has been that the vast majority of those default. In most
Okay.
instances, we never receive the first payment.
Okay. In the water billing resolution that we passed, item number 4 says the reestablishment of a 7-year payment plan option for customers currently in the dispute process on the date this resolution is adopted and approved by the governing authority, while the Office of Water and Sewer Customer Advocacy is being established. So is
And we do offer that.
So is everyone that you listed in the 7-year payment plan?
No. We discuss it with the issuer, with the customer to determine what an affordable plan is. We don't default to 7 years.
Well,
In many instances, they're on a 7-year plan.
Okay, but are we
we
communicating?
attempt to get them within an affordable plan. And our first goal is to look at what a 24 to 36-month plan would be, especially for tenants, because tenants come and go. And so it's not totally reasonable to expect that a tenant is going to fulfill a 7-year plan. But we do discuss it to find out what they can afford to pay every month. We don't simply default to a 7-year plan.
Okay. But we do give people the option to pick the plan that would work best for them. We tell them that they have options. It could be 1 year, it could be 7 years, or in between.
That depends on the balance of the account. And I don't, standing here right now, I don't know what those different balances are, but yes, they do have options. We try to work with them, but we're obviously not going to put someone on a 7-year plan that owes $1,000. So it depends on the balance and what the customer's situation is.
Again, we work with them on a one-on-one basis
Yeah.
to determine what they believe to be affordable. We don't go more than 7 years, and we don't go less than $25 a month.
Okay. And then when you establish these payment plans or you offer the payment plans, what's the down payment, I guess, that you ask for?
The down payment is we generally ask for 10%.
You ask for 10% of their total bill.
But we take as little as 1 month payment. We take as little as one current month payment.
Okay,
With
and-
the
and-
understanding that they're going to remain current.
Okay, so there is communication that we are not requiring a 10% down payment. We are suggesting that 10% is what we're looking for. However, they could simply make an extra month's payment as that down payment to start their payment plan.
So let me say this, the 10% is the down payment. That is how the plan is set up. That's how
Regardless,
the
there's
process
no
is
choice
set up.
there.
It's not that it's not a choice. You have to have a baseline. That's where we start. Because the first thing is we want to get people to an affordable monthly, because we have to remember these people still have to pay their current charges as they become due. So what we found is the 10% for the most part. Now, people who have catastrophic leaks and extraordinarily high balances, it doesn't work. So we say that if people ask us what does an installment plan look like, it's 10% down and as much as 7 years to pay back. Does that work for everyone? No. So then we begin the negotiation process. First of all, if they have leaks, we are going to see what leak adjustments are available to them so that a great majority of that is they're relieved from. I mean, quite frankly, if people have a leak and they're able to get on it and repair it pretty immediately, they really don't pay any additional because we give up to 2 leak adjustments on a bill. The problem comes in when people do not acknowledge that they have a leak, refuse to, take care of the leak, or in some cases they are a tenant, or there are affordability issues. We recognize all those things, and those are the times when we say, okay, 10% is not going to work. Will 5% work? Well, it's a negotiating thing with the customer based on their individual circumstances. So when you say it's 10%, yeah, that's how we have it set up, because again, we're dealing with frontline staff who have to have some knowledge of what are the parameters that we start with. Otherwise, we'll just be ad hoc in everything we do. It's just like anything else. There are processes.
Well, I
that
think
we have to
I think
place.
the whole theory of water customer advocacy and why we put in place these protections
Absolutely.
is that it has to be a customer by customer basis. It actually has to be ad hoc. Every situation is different.
Absolutely.
So
That's the way we treat it.
if someone gets their water shut off because they have $3,000 in past due bills, in order to get that water turned back on, they need to make a $300 down payment based on the messaging they get from the watershed department.
That's the first thing we're gonna ask for. And and some people say, oh, I can pay $6. Some people say, I don't have it. And we work with that customer until we can get to a point where they're able to.
Okay, but
to-
you could
to
understand
enter the
how
plan.
someone who already didn't really trust DeKalb County, I think we've all acknowledged that the past issues have caused a little bit of, distrust from some people, right? And if they get a letter, like it's a very legal letter. I mean, if I got that letter in the mail, to me, it would be like a directive. It'd be like, oh, this is like an official government letter. I have to follow this to the line. Why not just say that in the letter, just say that we would like to work with you and not have a number, not have a pre-ascribed amount, just say we'd like to work with you to solve this billing issue.
So to your point, that is part of why I think we've arrived at this place. We've had those communications. All of those things, like I said, we've done over the course of the 21 to 23, we sent out 5. And these, by the way, are the same accounts that would have gotten all of those letters as well. We've sent about 5 of them to the tune of over $135,000. I mean, at some point, we've got to expect people who've entered into an agreement with us to own up and just say, hey, I need to go in there. I mean, the letter is meant to incentivize some action because.
But the letter does not state that 10% is required. I did read the letter into the evidence, but no, seriously, it does not. It just indicates that, please call us and we're here to work with you.
Okay, that's recent though, because in the past months, 2025, 2024, it sounds like that the letter was, or like the notice was, shut-off's happening, you have to make a payment, and 10% is what we're asking for. Is that right?
That is what we ask for. If they can't
Okay.
afford it, they can come
Okay,
back
but this letter that was
and
mentioned,
discuss
is
it.
that the
Oh,
newest,
it might
is that
have
the
been
newest
added
letter or
to
is that the
that.
current letter? Like, how long has this letter been used?
Yeah, we've had several different letters, so I'm not.
Okay,
I don't
well,
have
I've
all
never
of
seen
them.
any of the letters, just to let y'all know.
Yeah, I
So-
don't have them in front of me either, and I'm not, I'm not the person that actually sends them, so I'll be the first to say that I don't, but we've had different variations of the letter, but I think the one that Madam CEO is reading to you now is the one that we're currently using.
As of, what, like a couple weeks ago?
It's this year,
This year?
yeah.
Okay. So since we passed this resolution with all of the protections and shut-off
I don't know
conditions, the letter is up to
I don't know
date
the
now?
exact date, to be honest with you, because we're in operations, and so we're working every day. Like, every day there's a problem or an issue or something that we're working on, and we don't necessarily, like, as soon as we get it to where it's ready for prime time, we go ahead and we start executing. So I apologize, I don't have the exact date of when it is.
Okay. So on this delinquency data, you have water owner, water tenant. Is the water owner residential and a business combined?
No, that is strictly residential. What we've been here to discuss is our residential accounts, which include single-family homes owners, single-family homes tenants, condominiums and HOAs, and apartments. Those are our residential.
Okay, so there's a whole other set of business and
Yes,
corporate
there's a-
delinquencies?
There's a set of commercial delinquencies, but commercial accounts compose approximately 25% of our total. The residential accounts compose 75% of our total outstanding balances and delinquencies.
Okay. And so you mentioned that there's not going to be any mass water disconnects. What would be the definition of a mass disconnection? How many can we actually logistically cut off every single day?
What we would expect is around 500 to 600, correct?
How many can we logistically? Yes.
In one day?
In one day.
So we have a team, whether they turn water on or turn water off, that can literally do 600 addresses a day?
Yeah, but we have, that's historically what we did. We haven't seen numbers like that, since well before the moratorium. But again, the goal is not to do that, because the other thing that happens when you do that, we got to get the people back on when they pay. So we're in no hurry to run out there. Like, there's no desire for the field people to go out there and cut water off, because people, they're not happy when you cut the water
Oh, yeah,
off.
they'll email us.
Yeah, well, they do more than email the staff that goes out there. They approach them, they running from dogs. It's not, so we don't, it's not our desire to put our staff in harm's way.
Yeah, no, I understand. Now, of course, that's in the case of an individual account, a home, I guess.
Correct.
But if we include condominiums, about 620, so about almost 900, 850 complexes that are accounts that probably represent tens of thousands of people who live in these complexes. So we're planning to shut off water for delinquencies for residential accounts. Are we planning on shutting off water for the condominium and apartment complexes?
We've not been doing that because then we have to find alternative living space for them. Because then they can we have to move them out because they've got no access to water.
Okay, so
Now,
basically,
apartments only compose 7% of our total.
well, it composes $11 million, and then $25 million for condos.
And
So,
then condos compose 10% of our total.
okay. and that
Single-family homes are 57%, whether it's tenant or owner.
Okay, now, in that 28 million that are on payment plans, are some condos and apartments on payment plans?
No,
Not at all?
I'm not aware of any.
I was going to say, I'm not,
I'm not
Okay.
positive that there aren't any, but
there may be
they've,
Okay, so when we say that we are, really focused on collecting the $104 million, about 36 million of it, we actually really don't have an easy way to collect that because we're not planning on shutting off water.
and we don't have, and what we're trying to work on is our individual customers to help them try to become current with their account.
Right, but for an apartment complex, you're dealing with a property manager. For a condominium, you're dealing with an HOA. But again, if the plan is to collect this $104 million, how are we going to collect 46 million of that from the condos and the apartments?
That's a strategy,
That's a-
quite frankly, that has to be developed. But one thing is for certain, it's not sustainable to allow all of these individual communities to not pay. Each of these particular communities have their own set of circumstances as to why they find themselves in that position. Some of them, have reported to us that the board, that they don't even have a board. So we first got to determine who we even need to be talking to try to come to a resolution. And a lot of it, again, is through poorly maintained infrastructure. So, where there are opportunities for us to provide assistance with, whether it be monies, I don't know, I'm not the money person, but to assist in that area or to help them with repairs, whatever programs can be developed. And I think that's the partnership that we're looking to, at least from my perspective as a person in operations on the ground, to the board. We're operations, and all we're trying to do is what it is that we've been asked to do. So everything doesn't always fit in a neat little box. We can, we could sit in offices and figure out the greatest laid plans, and there's going to be somebody that doesn't fit within that. So the thing is just being open-minded and coming up with creative ways to deal with it, because I will say that you all may have gotten recently, probably an email, there was a particular community, they had some shut-offs. And the first thing is, we've not shut off, because you would definitely be well aware if we were shutting off large communities. There's a whole campaign. We never just do that without any communication. But what has happened is that particular community has apparently experienced some fraud with their board, and they have engaged the services of a private company that has come in and installed sub-meters behind the meter. Now, to be clear, the DeKalb's master meter is on. Everybody should be getting water, but that company has determined whoever is not paying their assessments is not going to get water, and they're cutting them off. So then a lot of them are reaching out, probably some of them have been in your emails, but there's nothing that the county can do about that, because again, that is a contractual issue between the HOA
and the
homeowners. So a lot of times we're kind of in the middle of stuff that,
Yeah, I understand. I think you're making my point is that every customer has its own unique case, which
Correct.
is, that's why we wanted to create the Office of Water and Sewer Customer Advocacy. Number one point in policy recommendation in the resolution that we passed says the establishment of the Water of Office and Sewer Customer Advocacy within DeKalb County government by January 1st, 2026, to work in concert with the current Watershed Customer Service and Billing Advisory Board to address customer billing issues and to make any necessary amendments to the Water Customer and Service Billing Advisory Board enabling legislation. So earlier in the year, and actually last year, what we actually had been referring to and didn't make the final draft because it was something we were going to work on, is the Watershed Customer Service and Billing Advisory Board hears dispute complaints on water meters. We've acknowledged that those monthly disputes are very low because the technology and the water meters are up to speed. In essence, this board has said, we're not sure we even need to exist. So what we proposed is that we simply reframe the board as a watershed advisory board to which the Office of Water and Customer Sewer Advocacy would report to and consult with. What's been proposed today is actually not what this resolution says. The Urban League is a vendor. The Urban League is not the Office of Water and Sewer Customer Advocacy, working in concert with the current advisory board. So I'm not seeing any indication that Urban League, that the current advisory board has been consulted on this or has agreed to this concept. I don't think I've agreed to this concept because the resolution says the establishment of the office. So I guess the interpretation of this resolution is that Urban League will be our office. However, when we were talking about this, and the reason why some of the advocates supported this legislation was because we were using Baltimore as the model. Baltimore has an actual office. It's an independent office. And that's very key. It's not no offense to the staffers who are considered water advocates within the government. The purpose of creating an independent office is simply for transparency and to show very clearly that the folks who are collecting the bills are not the ones deciding how you pay the bills. There should be a separation there. It actually is a good method, in my opinion, to preserve the independence of the process. Not saying that y'all aren't independent. I think you're trying really hard. But again, after a decade of mistrust, this was the agreement that we made with the ratepayers. We're going to have to raise rates to fix this, but we're going to make sure that all the past issues, which are thousands, apparently 100,000, that we had nothing to do with, well, I mean, some of us were here, but I wasn't here, get sort of their independent review of their situation.
Let me just mention that the contract with the Urban League would include whatever required independence and reporting that's deemed necessary. So they should be just as independent as a separately determined office that's under the CEO.
Okay, so I understand that the resolution is not a law. It is a recommendation. We've been schooled by the law department on this every single day, basically. Commissioners can pass legislation. The original proposal was to put the Office of Water and Customer Advocacy into the actual legislation that set the rates. We were told, no, we shouldn't do that. We should just have a standalone resolution that we should vote on, because their assumption was that we were going to work together to create this Office of Water and Sewer Customer Advocacy. But what we've learned today is y'all have already decided what you're going to do. You didn't consult with anybody up here. You didn't consult with the Water Customer Service and Billing Advisory Board as the resolution requests. And so you've created something on your own, and now you're presenting it to us as this great idea you've had, but no one up here has heard about it until just now.
Well, I want to be clear, Commissioner Terry, that at some point you must have the conversation, whether it was last week or today. The material has been assembled, and that is why we are present here today, to share the information and to receive the feedback. Under, be it now resolved, now therefore, establishment, and this is Roman numeral 1, establishment of the Office of Water and Sewer Customer Advocacy. We are in conversation and review as Attorney Welch has indicated, in the review of our current boards. We are not looking for duplicity of boards that already exist that may need simply to be tweaked to serve in the capacity. Because I do want to be clear, when you say the Office of Water and Sewer Customer Advocacy in-house, it is in progress. But what we have brought today, and I do believe that if we are talking in the spirit of fairness, equity, and ensuring that we are working progressively with individuals who may be identified as having sensitive needs, whatever those extenuating and mitigating circumstances may be, not only income, but beyond, we have identified an advocacy group that has a national recognition. So I would ask that they are not shot down before they stand up, because this organization has decades of experience in providing the service that has been requested.
Okay, well, I mean, I'll just have to take your word for it because I don't know that. I don't know if they have done water customer advocacy in Georgia. I mean, the Urban League is a national organization, but I don't know if they've actually done that within with the Georgia branch.
To assist also with comfort, or I urge everyone here to do their own research, honestly, on the organization itself. But I would also like to, at this time, acknowledge that Danny Johnson, he is serving with us as a consultant, and he is the Metropolitan North Georgia Water Planning District Manager and the Director of Natural Resources Department for the Atlanta Regional Commission. And also, we have Pam Burnett, who we'd like to give acknowledgement to, who is the Executive Director of the Georgia Association of Water Professionals. So in addition to having the Urban League of Greater Atlanta as an advocate and working alongside us to ensure that we are taking the proper measures to ensure that everyone is treated with equity, is given due consideration, and that proper measures are in place on a case-by-case basis, we have brought along two, honestly, of the top organizations, not only in the metro area, but with national recognition to ensure that we're moving in accordance with what is deemed to be decent and in order. So I do want to indicate to you that as we review our committees, we are not looking for duplicity, but when this resolution was created, we are in full compliance and we will continue to move towards it because it clearly states that by January 1st, 2026, the Office of Water and Sewer Customer Advocacy should be in place. And I assure you that it will be. And as we create the parameters, because I want us to be careful, I don't want to be unfair with anyone. When you say that an office is not performing as specified, there was no specification other than the creation of the agency and the organization itself. So what we have done is seek to create guidelines and parameters, including how we reach out to customers, how we are requiring that in order to ensure that everyone is fully aware that we are creating DocuSign, that all conversations are recorded. So I do believe that given time, we will see that we have done what is decent and in order, and we are truly working for the advocacy of the people. I, as an elected official, I do not stand here today in opposition of the people that I represent. I do not have that reputation.
Okay, well, I'm going to just reflect that the discussions around the Office of Water and Sewer Customer Advocacy was that it would be a separate, independent office. No offense to the Urban League, but you could maybe see how some people would be concerned that the county government hiring a vendor that works for the government, the administration, is in charge of being an advocate for the customer while also being paid by the government.
Even the Office of Advocacy would work for the government because we are the individual that is constituting the office that is to be created.
I know, but again, the theory of this office was to replicate the Baltimore model. I think everyone acknowledges that. Mr. Williams was in dozens of meetings
and the
going
Baltimore
back to last
office
year.
works for the mayor. So this office would work for the office of the CEO and the Board of Commissioners.
Okay, all right, well, that's fair.
That's correct.
But it's styled as an independent office. So yeah, we got to
And
pay
it,
for
and
it.
it will be.
All right, thank you, guys. Commissioner Terry, if you please wrap up your comments and questions for Madam CEO. We have another commissioner who'd like to speak.
Okay, well, I would just request that the delinquency data be greater clarified, because the Finance Department sent us a list of 904 residential accounts past due, 954 tenant accounts past due, which total $8.2 million. So I'm confused about what that list is. Is that the list that is poised for shutoffs, and that the remainder of the approximately 80,000 or 90,000 accounts that they are not being shut off, they're just in delinquency and we're just trying to get them on a payment plan?
And I want to be clear, because words matter and they have consequences. We should not be using the term poised for shutoff. What we are attempting to do is bring people forward who have failed to present themselves. And I also want to point out to taxpayers, and as well as the Board of Commissioners, when we are sending out these mailings, that's $136,000 to collect debt. And at some point, I just want to be clear, we simply need accountability. We're not here to be punitive. But failure to pay your water bill simply has consequences. If there are extenuating, mitigating circumstances, income sensitivity, please make us aware so that we can work with you. I want to reiterate, as a baseline, when the conversation starts, I do not feel that it's inappropriate to say, are you able to pay 10% of what is due? But everyone here has made it clear. I've not seen one of the consultations thus far where the person said that was comfortable. So we then begin the process of what is comfortable. But when we reach what is comfortable, we expect you to be honorable with us so that we can begin to bring down the balance and not continue accruing debt.
All right, thank you very much. Commissioner Terry, are you done for now?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Commissioner Johnson. And just further note, we are running out of time, so we're going to wrap up this discussion and move into our agenda. If there are commissioners or Madam CEO would like to continue this conversation, I'm certainly open to doing that at a future CAL meeting. Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, and thank you for the information, and that kind of plays into the comment or statement I have. I think the dialogue today was very good. I know it may have felt heated at some times, but I think dialogue is always good. So I was wondering if it's possible, can you guys come back with updated information, especially on the billing delinquency data quarterly, biannually, in some consistent basis, so we can continue these conversations and really truly understand how these are working, what's working, what's not working, and just make sure that we're all aware and on the same page so that we know just what is really happening with these water bills. Because we do get the emails from our constituents. I know in my office, we immediately reach out to the billing department to figure out what is really happening. But again, if we can continue to have updates like this and continue these conversations, I do think it probably should be committee of the whole and not necessarily PWI, but that could just be because I'm on that committee. But again, I appreciate the conversations, I appreciate the data and the information, and I look forward to continuing to see this type of information. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Commissioner. Oh, go ahead, Ms.
And
McNabb.
If I could also offer another piece of data, we receive between 600 and 1,100 calls from customers per day, and fewer than an average of 25 per week are ever enter into the dispute category. So the vast majority of our calls are handled and the customer is satisfied without going through the dispute process. So I think it's just important to understand the level of customers that our folks deal with on a daily basis.
And if we could add that data as well, and call times, because I think we get emails that someone's been on the phone on hold for 45 minutes. If we add those data into the continued conversation, that'd be
Right,
helpful.
we do produce that, just so you know, for the Water Bill Advisory Board every month. And in no instance, I think, has a phone call been on hold for more than 4 or 5 minutes. And the majority of it for the last several weeks has been less than 1 minute on hold. So there is no hour-and-a-half long hold.
All righty, thank you all so much for this discussion. I did confer with the PWI chair, and he's agreed that if we need additional time and conversation around this, that we can do it in Cal moving forward. So I will work with Mr. Williams during our agenda setting to determine if we need to schedule additional time. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate your informative presentation, and I imagine there's more to come. Thank you.